Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Magic gameplay. This time around we are on Lightseeker Ford, playing as the Tomb Kings against the forces of Chaos. So, going into this one I was thinking about a whole bunch of strats, what I could potentially do. I was thinking about going monster heavy and sort of infantry heavy builds, and honestly I haven't done this matchup in a really long time. I don't play Tomb Kings all that often, and the few times I do I usually end up against something like Dwarves or Dark Elves or some of those more common factions, but I did decide to sort of go with a composition that was pretty elite and see if we could make it work. For my lord, and this is something I really wanted to experiment with here, I did decide to bring Cetra on the Chariot of the Gods, and this is a sort of the mount you almost never see him on. Nowadays, you usually see him mounted on a horse just to get that anti-large, make him basically just a hunter hero who or enemy champion hunter. Sometimes you'll see him on his Necrosphinx just to dish out with infantry, but I wanted to try him out on the Chariot, figuring, we might just be able to make it work. Obviously, we did have to bring some spells with that, including the Blessed Blade of Tra to apply that blinded debuff, Narrow's Incantation of Protection, as was, of course, the Jaff's Incantation of Cursed Blades, just to get our proc of, of Restless Dead for the heals, as well as Wrath of Tra for the knockback and extra escapability, Crown of Nakara for an AoE, AP, and weapon damage buff, and then Unyielding Will, which of course is an AoE +5 melee attack, melee defense. He also does of course have the Curse, which is pretty awesome and definitely a pretty nifty item. Otherwise, we do have a hero squad with Lich Priest of Light, so going double caster this time around. I did bring a Net of Mintok, I did bring False Protection, as well as Banishment, figuring if I can get my opponent with Blob, I could get some good value out of this. Of course, we also do have the Nefarious Scrolls of Mighty Incantations, just to get some additional sort of Winds of Magic. Of course, Cetra himself does not have additional Winds of Magic, so it is something worth keeping in mind. A Tomb Prince here providing some anti-large support, as well as Guardian, and of course additional terror with Tomb Strike and Curse of Jaff, which is one of the best, best curses available for the Tomb Kings. In my opinion, of the three you can get, this is definitely better, I think, than the caster one, which is -60 armor, and it's I think head and shoulder, and I think it's even better than the Lord AoE damage effect, because Rampage is just so powerful. Finally, sort of rounding out our elite force here, we do have the Sphinx of Utsef, providing some AP, anti-large, and just monstrous melee stats in general. You can see its stats right now are just through the roof, over 600 weapon strength, and that's without counting the bonus for large of 35. So it's an absolute beast. And definitely, if my opponent had brought a large lord, as he does here with Kolek, he is in for a world of hurt. Otherwise, front line composed of Tomb Guard with Halberds, simply to hold the line as well as to provide additional armor, anti-large support and some armor piercing, and then the Kepler Guard to provide some sort of melee competence. We do have 2 units of Carrion, who are, as you can see, scouting ahead and sort of trying to push onward, shut down the Hell Cannon, because my opponent has decided to bring in a Hell Cannon. And you can see this shot actually curves and smashes into the Carrion, knocking one out of the sky. So pretty crazy shot. Things definitely starting off to a not so great start. Now over here you can see the Marauder Horsemen hidden in the woods, and these guys of course can do quite a number on the Kepler Guard, on the Tomb Guard. Tomb Guard only has 50 armor, so these guys can loop around the flanks, and they will be able to sort of pester and pepper down my troops. And unfortunately, you can see the Kepler Guard here just getting wailed on. And of course, this was a big misplay on my part. Something you should always do with the Soul of Damnation is fly your troops close for proc its ability, and then pull back out. And unfortunately, what I did here was I charged in like a maniac, and because of that, its ability has been procced prematurely by the Carrion, and now it is getting massive value against my Kepler Guard, who you can see have already lost almost 20 models, and they're just getting wasted, almost 30 now. So we are pushing in. I'm trying to get my Carrion in there to shut down my opponent's troops. And my opponent's build is nothing too fancy otherwise. It's a bunch of Chaos Warriors with Halberds backed by some Chaos Warriors with Great Weapons. Honestly, I don't think Great Weapons are really the way to go here. I think if you're going to bring any Chaos Warriors other than the Halberds, bring the shielded ones, because the Tomb Kings can bring a decent amount of shooting, and the shielded ones will trade better with the Tomb King infantry, I think. Regardless, Kolek here whopping on the Carrion, who are trying to shut down the Soul of Damnation as best they can. There is a Firecaster with Burning Head, Flaming Sword of Ruin, Cascading Fire Cloak, and Fireball. He is mounted on normal steed, so with evasion, he's actually going to be really quick and pretty tough to catch for me. Regardless, you can see we're just piling in, and you can see Cetra there getting a nice meaty charge and actually doing a lot of damage. You can see these guys went down by about 1,000 HP on the charge, so Cetra is definitely a force of nature, able to pick off quite a few models, but unfortunately my opponent here countercharging, and I was not really able to push out. A lot of mass here between 2 units of these Chaos Warriors. Fortunately, Kolek there whopping on his own guys and sends them flying. In the meantime, I have been trying to sort of posture around, get a charge on Kolek. The Carrion here trying to shut down the Soul of Damnation somewhat successfully, but it's really just not ideal. In the meantime, the second unit carrying trying to pressure off the horsemen, but unfortunately these are the javelin variant, so they're much better against air targets, and they actually managed to snipe him down without too much ammunition loss. So a big problem for me. In the meantime, though, Chariot has cycled in and is coming back out, or cycled out and is coming back in, getting a nice little charge here on the Chaos Warriors, doing a little bit of damage, and we do get our little explosion off. And of course, he is providing his melee buff here to the Sphinx of Usev as well as the Tomb Prince, who are doing some good damage to Kolek. Kolek here does have Stark Rusher, Standing Ground, the Lightning Strike, all that, so he's pretty well kitted out for sure, but nonetheless, we're getting some value. In the meantime, you can see these Chaos Warriors getting kind of run over by Cetra, who's up to 36 kills already, which against a fairly elite force like this is not something to sneeze at. We do have the Blessed Blade of procced, and you can see I'm doing my very best to run over these Hell Cannon crews because I do not want them coming back. So if we quickly look at Cetra's stats here, he's got a bonus for his infantry of 25, so really some pretty monster stats, especially on the charge. And you can see this poor Hell Cannon crew just doesn't stand a chance. I do believe once you get them down to 2 models like this, they're no longer a threat because you need at least 2 crewmen to operate the gun. Regardless, unfortunately for me, this front line is getting melted. You can see a nice little burning head there, roasting a bunch of Tomb Guard. They're probably doing some friendly fire as well. The Kepler Guard getting completely dumpstered. They've been just getting fired on this whole game. But fortunately for me, we are able to get the Sphinx of Usev in there, and of course Kolek was hit by the Blade of Step for a little bit, debuffing his stats a whole bunch. So he's in for World of Hurt. Definitely not having the finest of days there. But, you know, things we're kind of holding high and tight. Unfortunately, my opponent is very sort of alert with Kolek, and he's been dodging around, pulling him in and out. One of the big problems for me is that neither the Sphinx nor the Tomb Prince are particularly good at killing. You can see there, this is a bit of a mistake on my opponent's part. Using a fireball on the Sphinx of Usev, we clearly look, it's got a built-in fire resist. But regardless, one of the things, definitely one of the problems for me here is that I don't really have the great tools to kill this many infantry. Tomb Guard with halberds, they'll trade okay, but they're not going to win against Chosen Chaos Warriors with halberds. The next Sphinx of Usev is not very good against infantry at all. It doesn't really have that much splash, and honestly, the Tomb Prince isn't great against them either. They don't have too much splash either, so it only really leaves Cetra as my main sort of infantry mop. But you can see he's kind of swinging around for another go. He's definitely running these guys over, and we are able to force off Kolek again, but unfortunately my opponent just always diving in with enough troops to mob the way. He's actually forced to sort of make a sort of emergency pullback here to try to salvage the situation. This would have been a great opportunity for banishment, but unfortunately I just didn't have the Winds of Magic at the moment, and that was definitely a bit of a mistake on my part. Regardless, the Lich Priest of Light here getting chipped away at by the casters, and I am hounding Kolek, trying to kill him at all costs. We have popped the Tomb Strike, trying to get extra melee attack, but we are missing, and it's really quite a pity because Kolek here is just getting away, and it's ridiculous. But we do get a nice little meaty hit on his posterior there, and you can see the Dragon Ogre is not going to be happy here, so we're able to force him off. However, the Balance of Power dead even. We're already several minutes into the game, and things definitely not looking that hot for me. Even if I do manage to get rid of Kolek, there's still this much infantry. If we look at the Balance of Power here, you can see my opponent has almost 400 models on the map. Obviously, Cetra up to 100 kills against Chaos Warriors, just running amok, being an absolute beast, but I'm running out of infantry. My meat shield is going away. It's kind of running out. I'm not able to get as much value out of the Nefertiti Scrolls and Incantations because I don't have that many units on the field. And things are definitely not looking the greatest. It's basically down to Cetra and his goon squad. My opponent here very alert with his Chaos Sorcerer as well, trying to sort of dodge away, making sure I'm not able to snipe the Sorcerer out. Occasionally we are able to clip him a little bit, but unfortunately we're just not fast enough to catch him on the horse. But one of the good things is that we are able to chase Kolek away. Unfortunately, we are not able to snipe him out, which would have been a huge win for myself, because obviously there's a much greater leadership penalty if you kill the Lord rather than simply rout them off. So, quick looking over the battlefield, you can see the Balance of Power is definitely shifting slightly in my favor, but that is because Kolek is routing currently. I'm not entirely sure why it's actually this far in. We haven't gotten our Shopti summon yet. I actually haven't lost enough troops, I don't believe. You can see over here I'm using the Tomb Guard to try to screen out these Marauder Horsemen, finally noticing them, that these guys have run out of ammo, and then pulling back to zone these Horsemen out. And of course with the Silver Shields, these guys will hold much better than they had been holding previously. Unfortunately, here in the pits, things still not looking great. We finally do push Kolek off the field, and you can see things looking up for myself. Cetra there piling through these Chaos Warriors with halberds, raking in hundreds of, or over 100 kills now, running into 140. Just running these guys over. So he's definitely mulching these troops, but still, 3 Chaos Warriors with halberds and a good bit of mass from all these Marauder Horsemen is going to put my opponent in a position where he can really sort of potentially pin Cetra, and pen in the Sphinx of Usev and whittle them down. I was trying to sort of charge up my Winds of Magic here with my Lich Priest of Light, trying to get one more banish briefing. That would be the game-changing moment. But unfortunately, I just haven't gotten the opportunity. I haven't really gotten the Winds of Magic left. In the meantime, this blob of infantry constantly harassing the Sphinx of Usep down to about 2,000 HP here. I do pop the Nefarious Scrolls of Mighty Incantations, trying to get some value back, but like I said before, we're just running out of troops to use as a battery here. In the meantime, though, the Prince has recovered, and so at this point we're kind of rallying for a bit of a last stand. My Tomb Guard here, the last dredges of these troops getting slaughtered in the pits, down to 8 miles. They're really not long for this world, unfortunately, and you can see we're still almost there with the Realm of Souls, still missing a handful of deaths. But you know, it's bones for the bone god, I guess. We still do have 38 models here, which is enough to potentially get me that 300, up to that 375 that I need. We were barely there before with our troop count. So you can see there the Marauder Horsemen diving in on the Tomb Guard, applying some pressure, but the Tomb Guard, of course, is decent against large. And we are sort of pulling away with our monster squad, trying to stay clear of these halberds, and was kind of debating how to approach the situation. My opponent's cycle charging my Tomb Guard, very well done. I'm not really fast enough to respond with my Goon Squad. At the same time, my opponent obviously cannot pursue and hope to catch me. I simply have to extend a little bit and then wipe them out. I was still trying to sort of charge up my Winds of Magic and get that lovely cast of Banishment, which I figured could be the game changer here against this mob of infantry. Finally, though, kind of, and this was definitely a bit of a misplay on my part, I decided to push in with the Tomb Guard, trying to sort of pen my opponent in, and definitely a little premature. I almost had the Winds of Magic, but not quite, and you can see I do push in there with the Lich Priest of Light, trying to get a cast off. My opponent actually managed to get halberds in, and I'm not able to force path away. Just a few hits from the halberds on this guy, and he, of course, has terrible melee defense, terrible stats in general, and so he's just going to fall apart, and the Lich Priest is going to die. So no banishment for me. An absolute disaster. The Sphinx of Usep here holding its own, doing its very best, but the Tomb Guard is dying. And the thing's definitely looking a little grim. Over here, Cetro does come in for a sort of flanking pass, plowing into the Chaos Warriors, the Grey Weapons, who are, of course, an easier target for him, as we do get our Summon of Ashapti, who will, of course, help stiffen up the Sphinx of Usep and help it hold just that little bit better. In the meantime, Cetro up to 165 kills. We are able to route these Chaos Warriors with halberds, and this is really what we need. We need a sort of chain route that forces all these troops to scatter to the winds, and then we can run them down, because we are reduced to just 3 troops. You can see over there, it's just batting that poor guy. Well, we are only reduced to sort of 3 mobile troops, plus the Summon and the halberds. If these guys break, we do have the mobility to then run the infantry corps down and potentially deal with the cavalry and the sorcerer in due time. Another thing worth mentioning is that my opponent still does have the Soul Damnation crew here. Obviously they can't fire even though the gun's intact, but you know, they're still there and they're unbreakable, so potentially my opponent could have tried to run. These guys can't actually hide. Crews can't hide for some reason, but this was definitely one of the situations that came into my favor. As I piled in with Cetro, just trying to get a few desperate kills here, trying to break him. I completely, honestly, forgot about my ability. You can see Joust's Incantation of Blades going down, just melting these guys, but we do get our curse off. And clumped up like this, all of these guys are just melting. Just withering to this damage. Granted, the Marauder Horsemen still have a decent amount of HP, but this is the little bit that was needed to push these guys over the edge. The Chaos Warriors and Halberds do break. They are now routing. You can see the Shopti in there, you can see the Necrosphinx in there. We are able to tear out all these guys, and of course, one of the things Chariots are great for, and if you play campaign especially, you'll notice this, is actually mopping up infantry or mobs. They tend to be really good at just running them over, bowling them over, and farming the damage. So you can see the Chaos Warriors and Halberds here running for dear life, as Cetro mercilessly runs them down with his fancy schmancy chariot. It's so cool with the burning wheels there, and it's just a crazy machine. And of course, Cetro still does have 2,800 HP. Up to almost 200 kills, so definitely doing some work. And you can see over here, we do manage to shadow that Chaos Warrior unit. Over here, my Tomb Prince is trying to farm these Chaos Warriors with halberds, but unfortunately, we're really just not able to pull it off. They still do have... The Tomb Prince has pretty low melee attack, honestly, at 36, and honestly, kind of, it's going to struggle. But we are trying to pick these guys off. And he also doesn't have much splash, so he's doing his best here. You can see he does manage to kill, I think, one guy there. He might not even kill him. I'm kind of ready for him to stand back up. No, he seems to be dead for good, but regardless, definitely not doing an ideal job. But Cetro, still running amok, still being a beast. Over here, the Necrosphinx did wipe out the crewman, and at this point, things are definitely looking in my favor. With that break, that lucky sort of situation that we got with the curse from Cetro, things are stabilizing in my favor. My opponent could have decided to kite me out here. I didn't have the speed to catch any of his units left on the field. The Marauder Horsemen, of course, 90 speed. These guys at 9, and this Sorcerer at 83 is barely slower than Cetro, but honestly, I don't think Cetro could catch him, especially with the way, especially if he went into the woods, just because the Chariot's so clunky. But Can't see my opponent's infantry, basically all routed. Shockingly enough, these halberds actually rally despite being chased by a Tomb Prince that's way faster than they are. So I'm actually forced to sort of retreat here, not wanting to lose my Tomb Prince to a bunch of halberds, and hoping to perhaps get that rampage in. But as we pull back, my opponent here does finally commit to a last battle, having isolated Cetra here. You can see Cetra actually taking quite a beating from the Marauders, just because he's not exactly ideal and defensively. But nonetheless, we are going to be able to hold out. You can't see a rear charge, and my opponent finally does decide to GG out. So great game from CPU1, definitely a tight one right down to the wire. Going over the results real quick, I was actually pretty impressed with how the build performed. In retrospect, I'm not sure I'd bring the caster. And I don't think an additional Tomb Prince is necessary. Perhaps a Necrotect for the debuffs and the heals for the Sphinx of Usef would be the way to go. Perhaps some additional units of archers, honestly. Perhaps 2 skeleton archers could have done me the job. Granted, I got some value out of Frost Protection, but I think that in retrospect, I would have probably been better with some more zoning tools to get rid of my opponent's horsemen and or some like archers or cheap spearmen or something like that. From the perspective of the rest of the build, the Chariot did a pretty good job of shutting down the Soul of Damnation, but unfortunately they did proc its special ability, which meant it got massive value against my Kepler Guard. Huge misplay on my part. I honestly should have just pulled back out of its range, because I was barely, I think, on the periphery of its range. So just pulled back, let the Chariot go in, procced its ability, and then just left and sat and waited for its ability to expire. And that would have done me some good. As to the rest of the build, Tomb Guard with halberds did as well as I could have expected. The Kepler Guard, well, they got dumpstered. They didn't have much of a chance. I'm not sure they're that great of a pick here either, because they're one of the only expensive infantry, or really the only expensive infantry Tomb Kings have. You know, I might have been, honestly, I might have been better off with more just fodder to screen out my big baddies. Cetra MVP here, so 240 kills almost. Huge value, just running amok through those Chaos Warriors line. That's essentially 3 units of Chaos Warriors he murdered entirely on his own. He's definitely a beast. Cetra, I was definitely pretty impressed. Chariots can be powerful. I've had having some good success with Khazrak, but having this great success against Chaos, which is of course not supposed to be or supposed to be much tankier and much more survivable, was definitely impressive. Sphinx of Usef, of course, shut down Kolak, which is in and of itself no mean feat. So, regardless, for my opponent's build, decent. I think I would try to bring an extra anti-large unit. Honestly, I don't think you need. I think that you can honestly go with just a massive chosen with great or with halberds, and then bring a dragon over Shaggoth. I personally don't think the Soul of Damnation is really worth it. I also don't really think you need skirmishers against the Tomb Kings. Maybe some hounds to run down their light cav and interrupt or disrupt Ushabti great bows or giants, but honestly, I don't really think the Marauder Horsemen are that valuable to pick. They kind of shone a little bit because they got unhindered fire into Tomb Guard, but I think that in general they wouldn't be that good. Regardless, though, good game to my opponent. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you had fun watching Cetra run over some Chaos Warriors with his mighty Chariot. If you guys enjoyed the video and would like to see more, be sure to leave a like and subscribe below if you've not already. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, anything like that, be sure to share them, and I'll respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.